Chapter 1. The Weeping River. The moon hung low over Lake Xochimilco, casting silver ripples across the black water. Even the crickets were silent. In the village of San Jerónimo, the people locked their doors early, whispering prayers to the saints. It wasn't just the jaguars or the bandits they feared, it was the river. The villagers said the water was cursed, tainted by ancient blood and old gods forgotten by the Spaniards. Children had gone missing again. Their small shoes found on the muddy banks, their footprints leading nowhere. Some claimed they heard a woman weeping, her cries rolling across the water like fog. La Llorona, they whispered, the weeping woman. Marisol Ortega ignored the whispers. She had no time for ghost stories. At 16, she worked harder than most men in the village, stitching garments by candlelight to keep her sickly mother fed. Her father was long dead. The river never frightened her. It was simply a part of life, like hunger, like hard work. But as she walked along the river path that night, basket of mended clothes balanced on her hip, even Marisol couldn't ignore the strange stillness. The reeds swayed, though there was no wind. The water lapped gently, but its surface was black as obsidian, and from somewhere beyond the mist, a soft, pitiful sobbing drifted across the dark. Marisol paused. La Llorona, muttered an old woman passing by, clutching a bundle of herbs, her face lined like cracked clay. She crossed herself and hurried on. Marisol shook her head, but her pulse quickened. Ahead, the silhouette of her home flickered in the distance, a small hut of adobe and straw at the village's edge, tucked beneath the protective gaze of the mountains. But even as she approached, that mournful weeping chased her, low and so full of sorrow it twisted in her chest. She couldn't have known that her fate was already tangled with the curse. Chapter 2. The Nobleman's Secret. The carriage arrived in a cloud of dust, its wheels groaning against the cobbled road that cut through San Jerónimo. It gleamed. Lacquered wood, polished brass, embroidered curtains, and it did not belong. Don Rafael de Castillo, heir to one of the oldest Spanish families in New Spain, stepped down like a snake slipping from its skin. Marisol first saw him at the market, a tall man with sharp cheekbones, olive skin kissed by the sun, and eyes dark as volcanic glass. His black hair was slicked back beneath his broad-brimmed hat, and fine linen clung to his form. The villagers stiffened. Men adjusted their machetes, women pulled their children close, the air tightened. But Raphael's eyes found Marisol and lingered. "Who is she?" he asked a servant, but his gaze never left her. Marisol, standing behind a stall of woven blankets, felt the weight of his stare. Her cheeks flushed with anger and, against her will, a flicker of curiosity. The nobleman returned again and again, always under the guise of inspecting his family's neglected estates, always finding excuses to speak with her. He praised her beauty, her sharp mind, her defiant tongue. "A woman like you doesn't belong in rags," he said one evening, beneath the glow of lanterns strung across the plaza. "You deserve silk, gold." "Gold won't feed my mother," Marisol replied, chin high, "and silk won't keep me warm at night." He smiled, sharp, dangerous, enticing. Marisol resisted at first. She, like every village girl, knew better than to trust silver-tongued men with titles. But poverty is a cruel master. Hunger dulls reason, and there was a fire in her heart, one that longed to escape the shackles of mud walls and patched skirts. It was not love that trapped her, it was desperation. And desperation has always been the breeding ground for curses. Chapter 3. The blood moon rises.
The blood moon was not a common sight. a swollen crimson orb that cast an eerie rust-coloured glow across the village of San Jerónimo. The elders said such a moon thinned the veil between the living and the dead. The priests called it an omen. The old women whispered of hungry spirits. The festival arrived all the same. It had always been this way, the villagers dancing, praying and drinking beneath the shadow of forgotten gods and watchful saints. But this year the air was different, thicker, colder, crawling beneath the skin. Marisol wandered the crowded plaza, the smell of roasted maize and wood smoke filling her nose. Musicians played, children chased each other, but beneath it all pulsed unease. Her eyes kept drifting to the black waters of the river, visible beyond the flickering bonfires.
"Stay away from the river tonight," an old man warned her, his eyes glassy with fear. "She walks beneath the blood moon." Marisol wanted to dismiss it, but a chill coiled in her gut. That night, Tomas disappeared. His mother's screams cut through the village like a blade. Torches were lit, search parties formed, but the boy was gone. At dawn, they found him, floating face down in the reeds. His eyes were missing, his tiny body bloated and pale. On the riverbank, muddy footprints led away from the water, but no one followed them. The prints were impossibly small, childlike, and they vanished into thin air. The whispers of La Llorona thickened like fog, suffocating the village with dread.
Chapter 4. The Hidden Life. Weeks passed. Thomas was buried, the village shrouded in suspicion and sorrow. Marisol's world unravelled in silence. Her belly swelled, proof of her indiscretion, of Raphael's empty promises. The villagers' stares burned like torches. The old women crossed themselves as she passed, their words sharp as knives. "Witch," they hissed, "cursed." Raphael, once bold and charming, turned to shadows. He spoke of duty, of reputation, of shame. "You will say nothing," he ordered, his voice cold as the grave. "This child is complicated. My family cannot—" "Your family?" Marisol's voice cracked with fury. "What of our family? The child growing within me?" But Raphael's eyes, once smouldering with desire, were glass. His promises had been as hollow as the bones buried beneath the church. In desperation, Marisol sought Doña Eulalia, the bruja, the village witch, a bent figure wrapped in black, her face a map of deep creases, her eyes sharp and knowing. "The river remembers," Eulalia rasped, her fingers tracing symbols into the dirt. "It does not forget the blood of the betrayed." Marisol's throat tightened. "Can it protect?" "At a price," the bruja warned. "The river gives, the river takes." Desperation eclipsed caution. Marisol agreed. And in doing so, she planted the seeds of a curse that would drown the world in sorrow. Chapter 5. The Drowning. The storm rolled in as though summoned by grief itself. Black clouds devoured the moon, lightning split the sky, and the swollen river churned like a living thing, hungry and restless. Marisol stood at the river's edge, the wind whipping her dark hair into her tear-streaked face. Across from her stood Raphael, his fine cloak sodden, his expression hard and unmoved. "Where is he?" Marisol's voice broke as she screamed over the storm. "Where is my son?" "Safe," Raphael replied coldly, though his eyes betrayed the lie. "You are unstable, Marisol. You brought this upon yourself." She took a step closer, the water lapping at her bare feet.
"You took him from me! You took everything!"
Raphael flinched, but pride anchored him.
"You will not shame me any further."
Lightning flashed, and then the cries came. A child's weeping, faint at first, but growing louder, closer, rising from the depths of the river itself. Marisol's eyes widened as the dark water rippled unnaturally. Tiny pale hands broke the surface, first one, then another, followed by the face of her drowned, stillborn child. Raphael recoiled in horror, his face blanching.
No! No, it's not possible!
But the child's lifeless form floated toward them, eyes hollow, mouth open, in a silent, eternal cry. The ground beneath Marisol gave way to despair.
My babies!
In her grief, her remaining child, clutched in Raphael's arms, struggled, slipping from his grasp. The infant tumbled into the churning river, swallowed by the black waves. Without thinking, Marisol leapt in after him, but the current was merciless.
The river pulled her under, cold, relentless, and ancient. Her screams echoed across the water, and then silence. Her body was never found, but the weeping never stopped. Chapter 6. The Weeping Lady. The villagers heard it first, low, heart-wrenching sobs drifting across the blackened water, night after night. Children vanished, their tiny shoes left behind on the muddy banks, their laughter replaced by ghostly weeping. Marisol returned, but not as flesh and bone. Her figure drifted along the river, soaked in a tattered white gown, her hair shrouding a face twisted by grief and rage. La Llorona, the villagers whispered, the weeping lady. The curse had been born. Raphael's powerful family tried to hide, but La Llorona's vengeance was boundless. One by one they drowned, pulled into the depths by unseen hands. But her hunger could not be sated. The rivers of Mexico became her hunting grounds. Her cries lured the innocent, their bodies found bloated and eyeless, or never found at all. No prayers silenced her. No priest banished her. The Bruja Eulalia's bitter prophecy was fulfilled. To this day, when the wind carries her sorrowful wails, mothers lock their doors and fathers clutch their children tight. For they know, if you hear the weeping lady's cries, your soul is already lost. And there are no happy endings.